Hello, and welcome to For Book's Sake. Once again, I am Heather Roberts.
I am Veronica Adams, and together we are 1852 Media.
We are indeed. And today we are going to walk a line and talk about something that's a little controversial. We talk about some controversial things
When
from
have we
time
ever
to
talked
time.
about controversy, Heather? Come on now.
I know. But like this, I think it's important to bring up these topics that make people uncomfortable because we need to sit in a place of uncomfortability in order
I am
to
perpetually
learn.
uncomfortable, so let's just have at it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
life is uncomfortable. Like,
Life
we're
is
all here just
uncomfortable.
doing the best we can, right? Life is uncomfortable.
And get used to being uncomfortable.
Let's just embrace it.
There's growth in uncomfortability. That's
right.
a good thing.
That's right.
But yeah, I think talking about censorship is specifically what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
In relation to the Tillie Cole situation that has arisen.
Yes.
So for those that don't know, Tillie Cole had a series. It was the Hades Hangmen series, something like that.
Hades Hangmen, I think.
Hades is okay. I'm sorry. It was dark romance series. I have never read these books. I've seen them.
Nor have I.
Yeah, so neither of us have read these
aware
books.
of them, but I've never read them. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I've seen them promoted. If you've listened to any of our episodes before, you know that Veronica and Mai's comfort reads are not dark romance.
No.
Not that we don't.
I do enjoy a good dark romance, but it's like it's a treat. It's not like part of my routine consumption.
Correct. It's not like the regular stuff that we consume.
That's
I've certainly consumed dark romances in the past, but it is not my go-to.
Yes.
So I have not read this series. The reason it's coming up now is because there was a book that was about to be released or had just released, or maybe it was just found. I don't really know. The Darkness Embraced. I think it was actually published in 2019, but it just popped up.
I think maybe some influencers of color got a hold of it.
It's very possible. I mean, for some reason, it has come up now.
Book talkers in the book. Some readers who are people of color in the book talk community, I think, came across it, or it was brought to their attention, or they read it for the first time, or something. That is my understanding of how all of this came to pass.
Came to pass.
Yes.
So the reason that people are upset, and are, I think, rightfully so, my opinion, is that there is the main character, the main hero, if you will, of that particular title is a member of the Triple K.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we will get taken down if we talk about, if we say the actual letters outright. So I'm trying to be careful here with my language. He is a member of the
white supremacist group that terrorized the American South for much of the post-Civil War Restoration period and through the Civil Rights era.
Correct. Did and still exists to this day.
Yes,
and continue to commit atrocities against people of color.
Love to hang out in Florida at the gates of Disney World and other places where families congregate.
Correct. And so that the hero in that book was a member of that organization.
Yes.
And then the heroine was the daughter of a Mexican cartel leader. It's my understanding.
Everything about this makes me so uncomfortable.
It makes me cringe. Right. I told you we were going to be uncomfortable. It makes me cringe in a way that I really don't enjoy. But we need to talk about these things because these books have existed in our universe for years.
Yeah.
And have not only existed, but have sold very well.
Mm-hmm.
Have been acclaimed, have been nominated for awards. This was, I think, book 6. The book I was just talking about, Darkness Embraced, was book 7 in the series. There is an 8th book. There are half books, like novellas. This is a whole ass series, my friends. Okay.
It's not a half-ass series. It's a whole ass
Well,
series.
I'm just saying it's not like this is a standalone book. This is a whole
This
series.
was not a one-off situation. Tilly crafted an entire universe where this particular character with his backstory actually belonged.
Correct. And it's my
Yeah.
understanding that the Triple K shows up in book 3. I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
All of the blurbs have been taken down, so I can't go back and
Mhm.
look.
Yeah. I
But
think at this point only a few paperbacks are still listed in various places, mostly on Amazon.
yes, the entire series has been taken down by Tillie Cole from For Sale Anywhere after this has sprouted up. So these books are no longer for sale. But the reason that we're talking about them is because they were for sale for a very long time and
Yep.
acclaimed and loved
Yes.
and beloved. And
Yes.
there has been, ever since creators have come out saying, like, what the actual fuck,
Mhm.
rightfully so,
Right.
about the redemption arc of a Triple K member
Mhm.
who is
Romanticizing the transition from active racist to no longer racist, the
right
rehabilitation, if you will.
simply because of the love of a member of the Latina community, that love transformed him in a way that now he's no longer a Nazi.
Right.
So there's that.
For those of you who are listening and not watching, you should. It was just the face Heather made, like
So
the exasperated look of what the actual fuck. Why are we talking about this? Like,
right, like how is this a thing? This is something that we need to talk. This is something we
yes,
need to talk about
mhm. It
because
happened on
it
Beyonce's
happened.
internet in the year of our
Yes,
Lord 2023. How
it
how
did.
how is that
How?
possible? Yeah.
Because people are saying, okay, so there's one camp of people
Mhm.
who are outraged about
Of
this
course.
entire
Yes.
situation.
I
I'm in
think
that.
I think yeah,
I
most people
am
who are aware of it
sitting in
are
that
upset
camp.
on some level. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm obviously not part of a marginalized group. If you're listening to me, you've never seen me. I am a white German lady. Okay. I am not part of the marginalized group that was affected. I cannot understand how this affects them because I am not that person. I
Right.
am not them.
Right.
However, I can recognize that it would affect a marginalized person to see a
Yes.
romanticizing
Yes.
this particular
Mhm.
matchup.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see how that's harmful.
A member of a terrorist group. Let's just go there.
Yes.
Like an active terrorist group.
And it's my understanding, and that this book that I'm discussing,
Mhm.
the what is it? Crap. Darkness Embraced. There we go. I'm sorry. In that book, he's an active member in the book,
Yeah.
and then eventually and does things and then leaves the organization and has his redemption arc. So it's not like this is talking about somebody who was raised in it in childhood and they no longer they don't, relate to that
He,
anymore.
as
He
a
act
whole ass adult,
Yes,
participates in the organization and its and furthering its goals
correct.
and terrorizing minorities and marginalized groups, and then wakes up one day, realizes that he wants to be with
Oh, well, only because of the love of
the heroine.
the heroine. Yes.
Mhm.
And I mean, he has tattoos that are problematic, and those are essentially romanticized in the book. She, talks about them then in sort of a loving way, which is gross in its own regard.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So here we are. Tillie has taken the books down.
Yes, she has.
She has released a statement which I will read. She stated, "I deeply apologize to those I have hurt. I have taken the Hades Hangmen series down from sale. I am always learning as an author, and I have taken this to heart and will be mindful of all my stories going forward. I endeavor to always try and do better. For now, I am taking some time away from social media. Thank you to all who have supported me and shown me love. I appreciate you more than you know.
Mhm.
That is Tillie's statement. So those books are down for sale. Now there is an entirely different camp of people who are saying, "Oh no, this is censorship,
Mhm.
that this is dark romance and anything goes in dark romance."
Cancel culture came from somebody who was just doing what the genre requires.
Right. So let's
Yeah.
talk about censorship. Let's talk about what that is. Because this is not censorship. Let's stop there. Full stop. This is not censorship. So, censorship is the suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, films, news, etc. I'm just reading a definition here, okay? That are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security. Censorship truly comes from a place of authority that is taking away the
Mhm.
ability for us to consume media. So
Yeah.
books, films, news, etc. It is not censorship when the author herself removes the books for sale.
Yeah.
If Tillie wanted to, she had a choice to say, no, I'm going to leave those up. And she could
Absolutely.
have she could have typed, and made more of those for people to consume.
Hmm.
And people
Yeah.
would have consumed them, no doubt. So censorship is not pressure from people saying, this is not right. I really don't think you should be doing this. That's accountability. That is the peer accountability that we have in this industry, because let's be
Yeah.
honest, we really don't have any other type of accountability in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
If, censorship is when a government usually would come in and say, no, you can't read this. Censorship is removing books from libraries, from public schools, so that
Yep.
there is no longer access to those titles.
Yep. Yep.
It's not when an
Removal of
author,
information. Yep.
yeah, it's not when an author decides, oh no, maybe this wasn't the right take and takes the books down. That's not censorship.
Right. Or when who someone who has experienced the end result of this questionable thing that has been romanticized in the book, right? In this case,
Mhm.
open racism and terror, just for existing as a person of color or a member of a minority group. And they say, you know what, this is hurtful.
Yeah,
This romanticizing this gives it a form of social proof and validity that it doesn't deserve.
that's the biggest thing. That's why these are so problematic.
Exactly. And Tillie's decision to listen to that feedback from the people who are directly hurt by this kind of racism and terror. I mean, I applaud that. That's not censorship. That is growth mindset. That is self regulation.
Right.
That is accepting accountability for not being fully cited at the time that you made the decision to write this book and publish it,
Right.
or for, being willing to grow and change. A lot of things that used to be socially acceptable aren't because we continue to progress and society changes.
Right, which is great.
Exactly. Being willing to receive that feedback and do something to prevent any additional harm is not censorship at all.
Right.
Not in the least.
And talking about dark romance, I do want to touch on this a little bit, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of people saying, oh, but it's dark romance. That doesn't mean that dark romance is not a free pass to all things taboo. I for There are many things that exist in dark romance that I don't really enjoy personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are books that make me wildly uncomfortable, and that's just me.
Mhm.
However, I recognize that dark romance, for some, is a
Mhm.
form of therapy.
Sure.
That for some, they really need dark romance to help them sort out thoughts in their brains and process different emotions. And it's been recommended, anecdotally at least, for people that I've spoken to who are really into dark romance, from therapists and others in the professional psychologic, psychology. It's like,
It
oh
sure is
crap,
a
that's Facebook.
safe, contained method of dealing with anything, right? Repressed desire, trauma, whatever the case might be. I can
Exactly.
totally see that. But like it's funny, we're sitting here talking about censorship, and I'm thinking of a dark romance from a handful of years ago that was literally deplatformed because of the content. And the author ended up selling it direct on her website. And, you know,
Hmm.
this has happened more than once. This
Oh
example I'm
yeah.
thinking of is not unique. But it was deplatformed by retailers because of the content of the story. The romance plot itself is the kind of story that a lot of platforms, it violates their terms of service in terms of what you're putting out there and publishing. That's censorship. But
Yeah.
privately, I mean, the retailers have the right to say we will and won't sell this stuff.
Yeah. They're allowed to put, there are rules with Amazon. I mean, you're not allowed to
Sure.
have bestiality, pedophilia, certain.
Listen, I have stumbled across some dinosaur erotica in my day, so the bestiality thing, they find ways around it.
There are ways around it, and there are, yeah,
Please don't let
non-con
my
is
mother ever
also
hear this.
non-con is also not supposed to be published on retailers, but there are ways that it has been
This
published,
is wildly
and
popular among dark romance readers,
yeah,
though. Dumb and non-con are. I know a lot of readers who won't read it, and I
sure,
understand why. I'm not really a big fan of it myself, but also it's a good plot device for some of these really dark stories.
right,
And there's
and
nothing
so
wrong with consenting adults consuming that kind of content.
and so there are people out there who are saying, well, if that stuff is okay, then why
Yeah, the
is
slippery
this?
slope.
Yeah, why is this not okay? Well,
Mhm.
because this is different. I don't think anybody is saying that those books are glorifying rape. I don't think that
Right.
that's what those books are doing. And it's also, the author who wrote those books could have had a situation in their lives in which they've experienced those things, right?
Sure.
So there
Sure.
could be some sort of coming from the source information as you're writing those
Mhm.
books. If you are a white author writing about the Triple K and a Latina heroine falling in love, and you have this is not coming from your source of personal knowledge.
It's not
Okay.
inspired by your own personal life experience, at least not
Correct.
as a woman in a heterosexual relationship.
Right. Like this is not coming from that. So there's one difference, right? Also, it's a very different thing. It is a very it's very different. I don't know how else to explain it other than to say racism is not the same as talking about sexual exploration. Okay.
Mhm.
And there's other, types of sexual exploration that I don't really, love in books, like Step Brothers, for example. I don't love that
You
storyline.
don't love a stepbrother trope?
No, I mean,
Oh, I
I've
don't
read,
either.
I've
I don't
read,
either. I'm
yeah,
honest.
I've
It's
read
not
like
for me.
one that I've, been like okay with, but it was
Uh-huh.
only because they met when they were adults and they didn't know each other growing up. Like there was situations in place that made it not as
Yeah.
gross.
The only stepbrother romance I have ever, ever, ever really been into is the 1995 cinematic adventure Clueless.
Mm. Yeah,
I
I
love
forgot that
Paul.
that
I
is a
love.
stepbrother romance.
I love Paul Rudd. Oh my
But that's
god.
sort of a similar situation. They
It
became
is.
step siblings, not really by their own consent, when they were of age, when they were over
Right.
18. Or I think she was 17, but like basically adults.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is also, if there was a book about somebody who was really only into minor children,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
then suddenly that hero had some sort of redemption arc with the heroine, would we feel okay with that? I don't think
Nope.
I would.
Nope.
So
Nope.
there are lines. There should be lines
Absolutely.
as to, and this is also not to say that people can't write them. People can write them. They can, and other people can consume them, but we as the public also have a right to critique upon them.
Absolutely.
And that's what's
Absolutely.
happening here.
And via the honest feedback Tillie received, she personally, probably with counsel from, people close to her and her business, made the decision to remove these books from sale herself
Right.
because she sees, I hope, genuinely the harm that they I don't know.
Caused or causing.
Well, I mean, are they really causing harm? Are they reminders of harm? I mean, I don't know because I'm not a member of a marginalized community and have never experienced that kind of racism. And this is something that, I'm happy to let someone who has had that experience speak
Right.
on instead.
And I think that
But
that's why we're trying to be careful here, not because we don't believe that things like this perpetuate hate and perpetuate racism, but because we very much recognize that we are not a member of the marginalized class that has
exactly.
been affected here.
Right.
And
Right.
so we are not in a place to accept her apology, right? We can't do that.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that apology, or
It's not for
it's
us.
not for us. We can only, speak about it and talk
Mhm.
about the issues as they
Well, and
have arisen. There are a
and,
lot
and
of
address
amazing.
the white readers
Yeah,
specifically who are out here on social going, but have you read the book?
right.
Have you read the book? Do you understand what happens? Don't you get that there's a whole journey here? He redeems himself. There's a redemption arc, and I mean, essentially what you're doing is defending racism.
You're defending a Nazi. I mean, that's what you're doing. And in in the year of the Taylor Swift movie, I don't think we should be doing that. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. So yeah, I mean that's who we're speaking to. There are a ton of amazing creators of color who have spoken specifically about the harm that it
Absolutely. Mhm.
causes and perpetuates. So I encourage you to go and watch them. Mari, the book talker, is one of them who does an amazing breakdown. She actually read the book and she discusses it. Yeah, she read it for the purpose of those people who were saying, "Well,
But
haven't
did
you
you read
read
the
the
book?
book?" Yeah, she did. And she discusses why it's so harmful. And so I feel like that's a place to start. And there are a lot of stitches off of her videos from other creators of colors that talk about it. And so if you are, and you should be, interested in learning more about that specific, piece of this, you should go and look those up and check them out. But yeah, this is not censorship. This is someone taking feedback and realizing that in fact it was harmful, and that people are telling you that this is not okay, and
Yeah.
therefore
Ce-
removing them.
Censorship would have been Amazon removing the books for Tillie, or
Right.
Tillie's direct sales store closing down her store because she's selling these books with this particular kind of content, or Tillie appearing on a book ban list for a government entity's library and schools. Like, that would be censorship. This is accountability.
Right. So I think that that's an important thing to understand as we navigate, these issues in romance. And I think it's also important to bring up that racism in romance books is not new. I mean, this is something
Racism
that
in the romance community is
that's what
not
I
new.
mean. Yeah, no, in the community as well. Like there is a long history for those of you who
Yeah,
have just entered Romancelandia. There is a very long history of marginalized creators, or that marginalized creators of color
yeah,
and or authors of color,
yes,
and have constantly looked over
hmm
them for awards and recognition and
absolutely.
um, deals, traditional publishing deals. I mean, we can go on the list. There are authors who I have represented who are members of, different groups. I don't want to say their ethnicity in order to, identify them in any way, who have been afraid to be public facing for fear that their books wouldn't sell as well.
Yeah. If readers found out, the
If
community
readers
in
found
general found
out,
out.
yes, that their books then wouldn't sell in the way that they were selling.
Hmm.
And the fact that these people, I can't say one person because it's been more than one person,
Sure.
have had these fears that are justified because of evidence of
Yeah, of course.
other people out there who are public facing and really struggle to get their names on different lists and to get the different recognition that they deserve.
Sure.
This is valid. You can't invalidate that for them because it is a true fear.
Hmm.
So, and it's a personal decision that they have to make. We can just, we can argue all day long whether it's right or wrong or whatever.
Right.
That's their decision
Yeah.
to make. That's a completely different conversation.
But
But
the racism that's endemic in the community is so pervasive and so historic that we don't really need the books to also be reflecting it. Like
yes,
it's
exactly.
enough that it's actively happening to authors and to readers and to stories. I mean, we still don't have, I think, enough representation
We don't.
of non-white lead characters in romance.
I mean, the fact that a Big Five publisher was going to release a book that had Black characters in it, written by a white author for Black History Month,
Yeah.
tells us we have a long way to go. And they thought that was like it. They were like, oh, yeah, this is what we're doing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Let's
Like, they,
just
let's,
let another white author profit off of
right.
the Black community, please.
They were
Like,
like, let's pat ourselves on the back for this thing that we're doing,
mhm.
when it truly wasn't a great thing that they were doing.
Yeah,
So the fact that these things keep happening should tell you we have a long way to go. So
for
think
sure.
critically, authors, as you're writing books. Is this your story to tell? There's that whole conversation. Is this your story to tell? Can you tell it in a way that
That,
is,
that doesn't cause harm to a
yeah,
marginalized community.
that's why there's sensitivity readers out there,
For
and
sure.
you should use them
Mhm.
if you do
Especially if you
choose.
are especially if you are writing something that is not your own personal lived experience.
Exactly. And I understand this is fiction, but fiction doesn't mean that you don't get critiqued upon it. There's
Sure.
there's still critique that may be had upon
Listen,
fiction.
it's like free speech, right? You can say whatever you want to. You can write whatever you want to, but you are not free from the consequences of saying or writing whatever it is you want to say or write.
Correct.
Period.
Yeah.
And for Tillie, the consequences are readers of color are offended and hurt that she romanticized a literal white supremacist.
Yeah.
And
I can
rightfully so.
understand that. I
Yeah,
can understand why.
absolutely.
And
It's
from
a
a
bad
P
look.
yeah, I was just going to say, from a PR perspective, it's not a good look. It's just not.
But you know what is? Taking responsibility and issuing the
Yes.
apology and removing the books, accepting the feedback and sitting down and listening to what the people who are hurt have to say rather than fighting back or doubling down or continuing to sell the books. Instead of being emboldened by the readers who loved them and are out here supporting them still and doing the, well, did you read them thing on
Yeah.
social? Tillie could have leaned into that. She could have
She
hidden
could have.
behind those readers, and she chose not to. And I think that's admirable.
I mean, I think that's good. My one thing, I mean, I don't want to, praise her too much because she did release 8 of these
Sure.
books.
Of course.
But also my other thing is I didn't love her apology statement. I
Yeah.
thought there could have been more substantive meat on that bone, if you
Sure.
will. And
Sure.
I really didn't like that the second paragraph turned it back to her. She could have stopped after the first paragraph. You don't need to thank people for their support of you during this difficult time
Mhm.
because you created this difficult time
Yeah.
for other people. So you don't. She brought it back to her, and it became then about her at the end. Which authors, if you're writing a statement like this in the future, don't do that. This is not about you. Don't do that.
Oh, but it is. It always
It
is, right?
always
Like,
is, I know. But I'm just saying don't do that.
yeah.
That was in poor taste. That left, I think, a bad taste in some people's mouths because they're like, apology. Oh, now it's about you. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, not a great take. But
Yeah.
well, let's talk about our marketing tip of the week. And
Okay.
this relates. So, our marketing tip of the week is that you are a steward of your own brand.
Oh my gosh, could you be more on the nose this week?
I
Ding,
know.
ding, ding.
You take responsibility for everything that your brand puts out, whether it
Well,
is,
you should.
you
That's the
should.
marketing tip. You
Yeah,
should.
you
You
should.
may not be, depending on who you are. You may not be, but you should be.
You should be. At the end of the day, readers are going to hold you responsible. Whether you made the
Absolutely.
decision or someone else in your team ended
Yeah.
up making the decision,
Sure.
for whatever reason, we can use Iron Flame misprints as as a completely innocuous
Oh,
example.
yes. Yes.
That book is not getting it's getting one stars on Amazon, not because of the content, but because of the publisher misprints, the printer
Yeah.
misprints, I should say. We don't know whose fault it was. It could have been the publisher, it could have been the printer. It wasn't Rebecca's fault personally, because I
No.
guarantee she didn't make any of those files
Right.
that
But
went
also,
anywhere. But
the physical product of the book is something that the readers expect to be as described. And when it's not, they have a right to leave that 1 star feedback for
they do.
whomever on the team is responsible for the paperback or the hardback looking the way that it does.
Right. So you, at the end of the day, as the author,
Yep.
are the one that takes the brunt of those missteps from anyone
Absolutely.
on your team. So you have to know that and be willing to take responsibility for that, be willing to rise to the occasion to get ahead of
Yep.
that. Try
Absolutely.
your best to keep your fingers on as many pieces of your business as possible, so
Mhm.
that these missteps don't happen. It's a
Yep.
lot of responsibility. It's a lot of work, but it's something that, is very important to ensuring that your brand quality stays what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And also understanding that if and when one of your books is brought up as problematic,
Mhm.
that you shouldn't defensively say, no, it's not. You should sit and listen and be uncomfortable
Yep.
and talk to some people
Yep.
who you are of the community that has been offended,
Yep.
and find out, the situation there, and then craft a
Yep.
statement that is not about you.
Mm.
That's my ending
Was I a little
statement.
too cavalier? Did I not understand the impact I was having? What can I take away from this that will allow me to grow and be better? Not just as an author, but as
Yeah.
a human being.
And what can I do for the hurt that I've caused?
Mm.
What
Me, me, me. I'm on fire. Put me out.
Yes, exactly. What can you
Don't do
do?
that.
Yeah,
Don't
don't
do
do
that.
that. Don't do that.
Don't do
Because
that.
remember, it's not about you at that moment. It's not about you.
No.
So be a steward, a good steward of your own
Yeah.
brand.
You're like a general going off to war, right? Like you may not you you wrote the plan, right? And now the team is executing the plan.
Right.
And if the plan fails or there are snafus, it's going to land at your feet. It just is.
Correct.
Because it's you, the author, you, the brand master, the brand owner, the brand, as you call it, Heather, the brand steward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're directing
100%.
it. So,
That's a really great tip. It's like a 50,000-foot thing, but it's true.
right.
The success or failure of your brand ultimately lands at your feet.
And, it's really easy to remember that when you have a small brand, when you're just
Sure.
starting out. But as
Absolutely.
you grow and as more people come onto your team and more interactions are made and you have different deals going in different
Mhm.
directions, it can
Yep.
be harder to keep a handle on all of it. So it's
Yeah,
important to remember.
for sure. Good tip.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good
And
tip.
deep breaths,
Good chat.
everyone. Good chat. Good chat.
Censorship. Oh,
Censorship indeed. And
mhm.
certainly, if somebody would like to come on and discuss this further, we'd love to have a guest on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That
I
would
am
be
all about,
amazing.
yeah,
I would love
hearing the
that.
feedback about the FO portion of FAFO.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And yeah, we haven't had a guest on this show yet, so we would love to entertain that and have you
For
on,
sure.
and it would be a great discussion. So please contact us if that is the case. So
You have to be willing to talk about Taylor Swift at least once during the hour,
at
though.
least once, at least once. It's sort of a joke now. Is her name going to be
It
brought
really
up?
is. It's like a
Yeah.
running thread through it, right? Like that 3 weeks in a row we couldn't not talk about her, and now we've
Yeah.
got to
Well, last
at
week
least
was,
at least name drop her once.
yeah. Last week was valid. It was actually related to publishing, but all the other
Touche.
times we've just snuck it in there somehow.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Well, until
Well,
next
until next
time.
time, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Write well and be well.